RDTDaily.com presents a Tarabuster with comedian Tara Devlin.
All right. What's going on? Guys, this is trying to enunciate. This is Tara Devlin, unapologetic liberal talk on the right side of history, decency, dignity, democracy, humanity. Thank you for hanging out. Happy New Year. It's January 3rd. I'm just checking everything. I'm hoping that everything's functioning properly. Let me see what's going over here. Gotta press that button. Thank you. I see the chat room is filling up with our moderators waiting to moderate. Nice to see you, Haiku. Haiku says, I thought it might be you. And nice to see you, Jim. And thank you, Jim, for your super chat right out of the gate. Hopefully more people will show up because we have a very special show. It's a very special show. Like a very special, I think about when I was a kid, there's a very special episode of Blossom. Remember that? Where she was, I don't want to get into it. We're going to talk about a serious subject. It was a very special episode where I think she was sexually assaulted. That whenever they had to address serious topics, they would say a very special episode of Facts of Life. Right? When is Joe Polnicek going to come out of the closet already? All right. Listen. Yes, it should be an interesting year. This is it. We're in the last days of the American Republic, and it is a very pivotal year. Every year, for as long as I can remember, we've heard that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. Well, now it is. So tonight on the show, I'm going to call them in about 20 minutes. We will be having, is that the way you say it? We will not be having. We will have special guests on the show. Matson and Tawni Browning, who co-wrote an incredible book called The Hate Next Door. It's all about Matson and Tawni's infiltration of hate groups in America, working undercover inside of these hate groups. And they have a lot to teach us, that from learning from the inside what we're up against. And as we know, it happens all the time, but since when President Obama was in office, the rise of hate groups, of right-wing hate groups, were really off the chart. And it just seems like every time there's a Democrat, the bats come out of the belfry, because they just don't. I don't know. We'll find out from the experts. They just don't like multiracial liberal democracy. That's what it's about. It really is. They can't. I've been saying it all along, but what do we do? It's a real problem. And so we have. I gotta call them in 20 minutes. So let me keep an eye on the clock. I did a test on the Skype machine, and it worked. All right. Well, last time it wasn't my fault that we didn't have audio. It was actually the computer's fault. Remember that? Why can't I talk? I better learn how to enunciate. Remember that? We had an interview with who was it? The person who wrote very good book. Very famous book. Why can't it's escaping me? You gotta look on my guest lists. But oh God, why can't I think? But anyway, that nobody could hear it except me, and then I had to edit it together because it was actually Skype had whenever I don't know because when I got a new computer, something got kicked off. out of whack, and I wasn't able to, and there was nothing I could do because you're supposed to push this button on Skype, and it didn't exist on my Skype, and I had to go on like Reddit to figure out, and I found this obscure post about it, and then voila, it worked. All right, so not that you need to hear this. I want to thank the patrons who support the show. Hopefully, we will continue to keep, the Wednesday thing or the weekday thing. I want to do a show every week. It's been hard for the past couple of weeks, right up until the holidays because of work and whatnot. Just a schedule thing. So hopefully things have settled down a little bit and we can get back to our regular routine because we really will need it. And, you can't fight fascism part-time. It kind of has to be a full-time job, right? Because they're certainly not holding back. And it's really, it gives me a knot in my stomach. But it's going to be worse if we don't succeed. I mean, 2024 is a pivotal year. And I thought, let me see. Oh, yes. Also, before I keep going, I want to say thank you, Charlie, for your generous donations to keeping Tarabuster going and growing. And thank you for your donations to the community cats, the precious little community cats, the little souls that people often forget. And but we keep them in mind because, that's the way we are. We have hearts around here. We care. So thank you, Charlie. Really, it means the world to me. It really does. I can't do it without you. So check out APS Radio News to hear Tarabuster, part of Charlie's the roster. I was going to say repertoire, but it's not the exact appropriate word or whatever. But yeah, it's the roster. Okay. So let's see. I just looked on Huffington Post, and apparently the Epstein tapes, the Epstein documents are leaked. And let's see what we could find here. If anything interesting is in there. Unsealed court documents in the Jeffrey Epstein case have revealed the names of several of his associates, including high-profile individuals, including excerpts of depositions and motions. And some of the names listed are Prince Andrew. We knew that. Former President Bill Clinton. We knew that. Michael Jackson. I didn't know that. David Copperfield. I don't think Michael Jackson's going to a sex island. It's just a guest, right? He's not, he really was, he was interested in young boys. He wasn't interested in going to Jeffrey Epstein's sex island, I don't think. But, all right. David Copperfield. The court documents list 184 Jane Does. Oh, yeah. The Jane Does are the people who were abused. Starting at Jane Doe number 3 to Jane Doe number 187. Where do they have time? Where do they get all this time from to abuse people? I can barely do a Tarabuster on a Wednesday night, And they're like flying around abusing 187 people. Right? And then where do they get that money from? They're abusing all these people. Don't they? These are the masters of the universe? They don't even work. They just fly around with, abusing people. Treating people like, like nothing. Where's my Boudica? I just heard her meowing. A small number are the names of minors or sexual assault victims, which the judge specified won't be released. The documents are expected to include nearly 200 names, including some of Epstein's accusers, prominent business people, and politicians. Okay, what are the names? Well, as far as Bill Clinton, you know how, Republicans, they make things up, and they I'm sure you heard about the Jimmy Kimmel thing, where one of these right wingers they just never let go of their lies. They don't see anything wrong with being a filthy liar. They just, no matter how many times you correct them, they'll keep spreading their lies. But for some reason, one of these right wingers has a bug up his ass about Jimmy Kimmel, and he keeps saying that Jimmy Kimmel was involved with Jeffrey Epstein with absolutely no proof. So Jimmy Kimmel threatened to sue him. But as far as the Bill Clinton thing, we know that Bill Clinton, as Donald Trump was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, except we don't have video of Bill Clinton whispering in Jeffrey Epstein's ear in the middle of a disco, pointing at young girls dancing. Just like two, scummy frat boys. And also we have the quote from Trump saying that Jeffrey Epstein likes them young. He likes beautiful girls. He likes them young, a little young. So, which says that Trump, of course, knew exactly who Jeffrey Epstein was abusing. And in fact, Trump has his own skeletons in his closet. He's been accused of rape. He is a convicted rapist of E. Jean Carroll. Except they labeled it sexual assault or sexual abuse because they couldn't tell, or she couldn't tell whether he was sexually assaulting her with his penis or his finger. It's not that impressive, which probably is where we get a lot of these problems that we're dealing with. That's where it stems from. Inadequacy, feelings of inadequacy. But Bill Clinton is... I know for a fact that Virginia Dupree, one of the main whistleblowers of the Jeffrey Epstein case, said and repeated all the time that, yes, she met Bill Clinton. Yes, he was there at wherever they went. But as far as he never abused her. And she said specifically that she never saw him abuse anybody else. And of course, these women and girls would talk to each other. And he was actually there trying to get money, for his Clinton initiatives and whatnot. So where do you go? You go with where the money is. And, just because you hung out with the guy. But, as I love how the right wingers, they're posting pictures of Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein, but we have all these photos of Jeffrey Epstein and Trump. They have a selective memory. It's really frustrating and annoying, but so far there's nothing has happened yet. I don't think the names are out. Let me see. I hear, yes, I'm getting texted by the Matsons. I'll call you on Skype in about 7 minutes. How's that working? Right? I don't know. I said 9, so I don't know. How you guys doing out there in Boudica land? Yeah, the other thing that's going on, I'm sure you saw. We'll talk about this after after our interview with the Mets. And let me just get my documents in order here, so I don't embarrass myself in front of these impressive people. I know it's tough. It's hard. So let's see. The Hate Next Door. Let me see. Matson Tawni Browning. That's who we will be talking with in a few minutes. Matson Browning and wait, hold on. He says perfect. Okay. Matson is an internationally recognized authority on the inner workings of white supremacy groups. An undercover detective for more than 2 decades in Arizona. He thought he knew what hate looked like. That is until he got a front row seat. For more than 25 years, Browning has been infiltrating, documenting, and disrupting white supremacy movements from the inside, gaining an intimate vantage point to the KKK, skinheads, border militias, Proud Boys, and other white power groups. As they organized, grew their ranks, including in the police force and military veterans. Along with his intrepid wife, Tawni, he adopted fake IDs and ideologies, seeking the arrest of its hate group participants, none more so than J.T. Reddy, a neo-Nazi who took hunting trips, so to speak, for border migrants while gaining mainstream acceptance as a political candidate and terrorizing Browning's family. What others dismissed as fringe groups, Browning quickly recognized as a large and interconnected organizations permeating every facet of American society, effectively spreading their dangerous and repugnant rhetoric at unprecedented speeds. Now, with the violent polarization of our communities and an increase in hate crimes, the threat posed by these toxic organizations feels as acute as ever. So Tawni Browning considers herself first and foremost a mother of 5. Beyond that, she was the supervising and casting producer for A&E's Escaping Polygamy, a series documenting the trials and struggles of individuals attempting to leave the cult life of polygamy. For years, Tawni has been assisting her husband in the investigations of numerous skinhead organizations. With her covert investigation tactics, Tawni was most instrumental in shutting down one of the world's largest and most violent skinhead organizations. Tawni continues to gather intelligence on various individuals and religious extremists throughout the world. Then they're coming on this show. These are very impressive people, everybody. How do I look? I look okay? I'm only kidding. Yes. Epstein didn't kill himself. I mean, come on. Should I call him now? It's a couple of minutes early. I just did the intro. I thought I would do the intro before I looped them in. So we wouldn't, I don't know. So they wouldn't have to sit there and feel embarrassed. Why would they be embarrassed? They'd be blushing as I heap accolades on them. Let me just get my documents in order. I wrote a lot of questions down. All right? I did a lot of research. So hopefully this will be a good interview. I know I'm interested in... And guys, I want you to help me out here, too. In the chat. Whatever you have, if you have a question for the Brownings, please post it in the chat. And I'll ask them. All right? Wow. Okay. It's only 3 minutes left. Why did I tell him 7 minutes? I should have just said I'll call you in a couple of minutes. Because everything flies by. Time flies on this show. And I guess now it's dragging because I'm watching the clock. So they have previously appeared on CNN, MSNBC, NPR, and their work has been featured in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Their expertise and journalistic rigor make them ideal guests for the Tarabuster show. That's for sure. Now they have reached the pinnacle of success on Tarabuster. Okay, let's call them 2 minutes early. What do you think? Ready? Let's do it. Oh, you guys. Nice to see. Oh, you look beautiful. Let me get everybody ring. Let me see here. Hold on. Let me
Can you hear
get.
me?
Hi,
Yeah,
Tara.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. I just got to get your. Here we go. We got you here. Let's put you there. Let me put myself on the. All right, we got it. Nice to meet you guys. You guys look amazing. I love you both. I love that picture that is that your press people sent. You live in such a beautiful land, it seems, and you're where are you based, if you're
We're in Arizona, but we're having a real hard time hearing you, Tara.
uh-oh, you are I hear you perfectly. Let me
Okay, we'll make
see.
this work then.
And let me ask the guys on the chat. Guys, how does it sound? They always have to give me the feedback. If you're in 2 minutes, let me see. There's a little bit of a delay, so we'll hear if. I mean, you sound as clear as a bell. So what does it sound like for you? You just
Like you're underwater.
Oh.
And, yeah, we could hear you perfectly on. We were just
when
listening
you were
to
listening.
We could
Okay,
hear you
huh?
perfectly. But we're good. We'll make it work. We're good.
Oh, they say I'm very loud. That's because I just raised myself because all right. Well, let's try. Let's see if we'll make it work. Other than that, it sounds good, they're saying. So they can hear you. If if you can't hear something, just tell me to repeat it or whatever, and we'll make it work. Let me lower myself a little here. All right. Yes. Well, I did it. I told the chat room, your amazing resume, and I just don't know how you do it. How did you get involved with going undercover in these groups?
How did I? Well,
Yes.
for me, it was a job. I was hired as a police officer, and then I had the first skinhead that I ever came in contact with try to kill me, and so that kind of, it drew me in. It made me want to figure out what was going on. And then from that one incident, it just turned into years and years and decades of working these guys.
Right.
And there was more than that. I mean, he was working the gang unit, and
yeah, it's the focus. My focus, even though I was working gangs and intel, my focus was always in the extreme. So I was working with border militias. I was working with militias and white supremacy and the Klan, Aryan nations, all the big groups. But what it comes down to, and that's why we wrote it, the book is titled "The Hate Next Door," because we really don't know who is next door to us.
Right.
And that's what I found out through my journey and my undercover work is I had no idea that this stuff was all around us.
Right. And that's one other question. What kind of a person joins these groups, and how do they get involved in these groups?
How does a normal person get involved? That's a great question, and I mean, there's so many different ways a person can get involved. They can get involved through music, through family members, through friends. They could be jumped and beat up by a gang, and so they develop a hatred towards a specific ethnicity or race. Politics suck people in. There's all kinds of different things going on right now that brings people into this world of hate on both sides, not just the far right, but on both sides.
Right. Because I'm always under the impression, and I referenced some studies that people are, low IQ people are attracted to these groups, people who are not that smart. But you, in your book, mentioned, these are people from all walks of life, some very impressive and well-read and well-educated people as well.
That was one of the things, Tara, that made me just really made me take pause, is because I thought we were talking backwoods, knuckle dragging, people that couldn't really string together, too many words into a sentence, and that just wasn't the case. Some of these were our kids, kids that I'm like, how did this ever happen? And when there's that void, we can't. That need to belong, you got, they're going to feel it somewhere, and I hope that we can feel it in our communities rather than with hate.
Right. And two, I had one guy who's a member of the National Socialist Movement whose parents were attorneys and surgeons, and so it's not always your broken homes and non-educated people. These are, it's just that little seed gets into your head, and then and they jump down that rabbit hole, and next thing you know, we have mass shootings, or we have assaults, or we have, we were listening to earlier about JT Reddy. JT really did hunting trips, physically loaded up his vehicle, went to the border, went camping, went scouting, and went on hunting trips for illegal immigrants.
Wow.
So that's what they do. They just jump on whatever makes them feel good.
And I'm sure he had to get to a level where these people were dehumanized for him to just, as you're saying, go on a hunting trip for other human beings is pretty repugnant. Do these people know that they're in a hate group? That's one thing I have a question. Do they call themselves a hate group? Do they realize this is a hate group?
Well, as a guy who grew up not hating anybody, and I grew up around all different races, when I became members of these groups, I knew that they were hate groups. I mean, every word is anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-Mexican. Every word is how are we going to take over and how are we going to stop? And yeah, I think they do. When you become a member of one of these organizations, you know that you're out there promoting hate.
Wow. Yes. And so what do you think that, like we were saying with the people who join these groups, what are the common misconceptions in general that you found about white supremacy? And also, I was also wondering, because you were involved with different groups too, right? The Proud Boys, the Nazi, like you're saying, the American Nazi Party and whatnot. Did you stay undercover for all of these groups? And
yeah, I was undercover for, I think we did our last undercover gig not too long ago.
Wow.
I can't go undercover anymore.
Right, you're out.
And we're doing this type stuff, but
wow.
It's the ideology is all the same.
Mm-hmm.
The ideology of hate is all the same. If you hate the Mexicans, you hate the blacks. If you hate the blacks and Mexicans, you're going to throw in some Jews you're going to hate also. It's all the same. And once you get that ideology, and then you put the rhetoric that you're spewing and talking, you're creating the violence. And so, and that's why they're all the same. The problem with the white nationalist, white supremacy world is that there's nobody really willing to step up and take leadership, thank goodness, and start this momentum going faster.
Right, because so when you were infiltrating these groups, were these people, and what I'm trying to say, I guess, is it's a small world out there. So they must like have cross-pollination of different members, right? I mean, wouldn't you run into each other at events? And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all the same, because you can be a member of the National Alliance, and you can be in Unit 88 Skin, or you can be in Aryan Nations at a Christian identity movement. You could be World Church Creator, but your best friend could be Aryan Nations. That's why it goes back to hate is hate is hate.
Right.
You can, whatever label you want to put on it, you can put on it, but it's all the same ideology and it's all the same rhetoric.
Right.
And so it's all the same understanding.
And Tara, that's another thing that I just found so crazy is that there were just so few women to go around that those women would be passed around from group to group, from member to member, and then group to group. And it was, I'm not trying to be detrimental, but that's just kind of what happened. And I just felt like it was just such a toxic environment, not just because it was so hate-filled, but in that environment for the young women that were involved as well.
Right, because it must be a very patriarchal society in these groups where women are, everything's about a hierarchy, and when it comes down to it, and everybody should know their place. And you're saying like women were being passed around, and what would make a woman? I know because you were involved with the polygamist groups.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So is it the same kind of mindset in these, from a cult to these white supremacist groups? Is it sort of like the same?
That was so shocking. I keep saying it was so shocking, but it was so shocking that it was next door. I'd go to work, working with these polygamous groups, and the hate-filled rhetoric and the same kinds of thoughts were it was like same people, different pants.
Wow.
It just there was so much crossover. And one girl that was leaving, she had an iron cross tattooed on her arm, and I asked her if she knew what that meant. The fact that she was leaving, or else she wouldn't have a tattoo, but and she did. She was dating a guy that was involved in the nationalist movement. So that's when my eyes were like, wow, there's a lot of crossover here in the two
Right.
places. You would think they're miles away, but really it's like the more you learn, the more things are the same.
Right.
But religion is a huge motivator when it comes to nationalism and hate. And you wouldn't think that religion would have anything to do with hate, but religion is a big motivation within the hate movement.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. How is that even rationalized with them?
Well, because the Jews killed Jesus, and so that creates that whole movement. Then you have the Christian identity where they talk about Cain and Abel and the skin color and the changing of the races and how the blacks were expelled from everybody else. That feeds into the Christian identity movement. You have the Odinism and Asatru that's thrown into the whole mix. And it's all based upon, if you die in battle, you go to Valhalla, you hang out with the Valkyries, you party all night, and then you fight all day.
Wow.
And that's all religious-based thinking. And so that's why when a lot of these guys, when we have these members like, Timothy McVeigh, he had no worries at all about killing all those people, because in his mind, he was going to go to Valhalla and he was going to be a martyr. David Lane, another a martyr. Robert Matthews, another martyr. There's martyrs all over the white nationalist movement, and it's all based upon this religious belief that they are going to be exalted above everybody else.
Right. It's incredible. What kind of a toll, though, does this take on you when you're hanging out with these people and have to pretend and jump in and, it must take a psychological toll. But.
Well, I don't want to spoil the book for people who haven't read it, but yeah, we talk a lot about the psychological toll, not only on me, but on law enforcement that's involved in working these type things. The problem you have is there's a quote that if you're going to start hanging out with monsters, you better make sure you don't become one. And I was lucky because I had Tawni, who when I would finish my undercover work or my whatever my gig was for that day, I would come home and Tawni would help me process it, walk through it, talk about it, and realize that, that's that world. That's your undercover world. But this world you're in right now, you're safe. You're at home. You're with me and the kids.
It must be frightening, though. Did you ever get scared they might, figure you out, that you weren't one of them, let's say?
Did they ever figure me out?
Or did you ever get scared, it must have been hanging over your head.
And I was never really afraid for us, because Matt kind of was our protector, and some weird compartmentalization in my mind and in the kids' mind. But I know there were times that you were nervous about that.
Well, the I don't want to call it fear, but my concern was not by a skinhead or a militia member outing me as Detective Matt Browning. My fear was always a member of another law enforcement agency who is there on his own time knows he would out me to the people I'm trying to go undercover with. And you got to look at it this way too. You have to have a criminal predicate to work in organization. And within my undercover days and the time that I was working these groups, I locked up 19 guys for murder and attempted murder in Arizona alone.
Wow.
There was always the violence potential was so strong, and it was always there. But my fear wasn't for that. My fear was for being outed to other cops who were then going to burn me to these guys that then would come around and see who I was. And we talked about that in the book. There was an incident where I was teaching at the police academy, and one of the recruits was hanging out with these guys.
Oh my God.
And he showed up at my house.
Wow. That's scary. And because you got to think, as you're saying, these are law enforcement professionals, and they're there because they're like, gee, they have a point, because they're part of these groups. And I mean, did you find that to be, I know you mentioned some of that in the book about how some military and law enforcement were, true believers in this.
It's very frustrating because what they do is they take the tactics that they learn, whether it's officer safety or close quarter combat, firearms, and they then turn those tactics over to people who have no business learning how to hurt other people.
Right.
And that's why, for me, how can you go and protect when you're actively hating on the other side of your
exactly, and
life?
Especially in a country that is a multiracial democracy. And I suppose that's part of their problem. They don't like that. And I guess, they want everybody in their place or whatever. But did you ever think that, let's say, these people were just buffoons, or are they, real, are they just idiots, but not, like violent, let's say?
Here's what I did. I when I was talking about these, and I called them idiots or buffoons or morons
right.
or inept, and my mom pulled me aside and said, Matt, don't talk like that. You can't talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
And as realistic and true as it is, if you put the label of buffoon or moron on these guys, it takes away that these are really violent people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we just keep it where it's at, they are extremely violent. The skinheads would go on hunting trips where they jump in a car and drive around the city and look for minorities, jump out of their cars and beat them senseless, stabbing at times, and then they leave to go find another victim. These are extremely violent people who are built on rage and hate.
That is terrifying, really, because that's what they do as a pastime, basically, go around and beat people up. But they're beating up white people in many cases, right? They're beating them up for not being white or something, white enough.
Well, what they do, like if a white girl's walking with a black man, they'll beat up the white girl first, then they'll beat up the black guy. Wow. Because it goes back to the 14 words by David Lane that we have to protect the future of our children and the future of the white race.
Oh God!
And that's what they're trying to do in their mind. They're fixing the white race by getting rid of the non-pure, and that's how they do it. They do it by violence and by assaults and other intimidations, and that's how they operate.
So, and in the book, there was a story, Tawni, about you taking a picture of somebody's tattoo and them finding or being, because the flash went off or something like that. Is that?
Yeah, that was Chris Simcox. He was one of the leaders of the Minutemen down at the border. And I always try to take a picture of Matt with whoever we're with, somehow covertly, overtly, somewhere, so that they can't say they never met with him or they didn't know him or whatever we're in. But yeah, we were sitting at dinner we're having a steak, and I was across from Chris Simcox, and I went to take a picture, and the flash was on my phone. So it wasn't so covert. And I'm like, I'm sorry, new phone, that kind of thing. And because I'm me and I don't necessarily look or act like a undercover operative, he kind of bought it. But that was one of those moments where it was like, and you were like, Tawni, he was just like, he could not believe I did that. But we've had lots of things like that happen.
It makes it fun.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's,
or dumb, or really, really dumb.
Yeah, just you can't even imagine how you decompress from this, from going from one world to another. And do you ever feel like we're done? We don't have any hope. We're never going to change these people. Is there any hope with this? It's very depressing, really.
Well, I think the hope comes from what we as a community decide to do. When I started on this journey, I thought that I could take hate completely out of this world, and that through our supremacist intelligence network, we could change the way the law enforcement looks at hate and how we work hate. But unfortunately, it's like, we have cold water and we have hot water. We have, you know, there's opposites in everything, and the reason why we have hate is because we have love. And if we take out hate, then there's going to have to be some type of opposite somewhere. So I think what we need to do is work together with our communities and do our best to teach our kids, teach our political leaders, our religious leaders, our educators. Listen, we need to come together and explain that, yes, we're all different, and we all are. Our families come from different areas of this world, but we're all the same, man. We all want to be successful. We all want to survive.
We all want to take care of our children.
We want to take care of our kids.
Exactly.
And that's what it's about. You know, I might like dogs, you might like cats, but we don't have to argue with each other about which one's better.
They're all better. They're all great.
I call him that was his young lion phase, you know, when he was going to just change everything and make it all perfect. And now he's a wiser, older, a wise lion.
Right.
And really, we've found that there's something we can all do it starts with our mindset and our hearts. And there is something that we're all uniquely able to do to fight hate. Right. And I mean, just changing that trajectory. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just our thought process can change a whole lot. We have a lot of, you know, influence in places that all of us, that we don't even recognize, and where we're uniquely able and capable to fight hate.
Have you been able to, let's say, you know, pull somebody from the brink, or reach one of these participants?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, our tracker, we have quite a few people. I continue to have sources that give me information. You know, we've helped people. Tawni's helped, you know, people get college educated, help them out of prisons.
That's great.
We've helped another guy get on with his life by starting he wanted a camera so he could start a business, and we said, all right. So we give him the camera, and he was able to. I mean, he's doing great now.
That's amazing.
So it's just the little things.
Yeah.
And just because somebody's part of one of these groups doesn't mean they can't change.
Right.
And
there is a way out. There is a way out.
There's definitely a way out, but that way out, it kind of hurts because they have to look at what they've done, and they have to sit and they have to go through the processes in their mind. You know, it's the whole, you know, just talking themselves through it, and then going and talking to people that they've hurt and offended, and asking for forgiveness.
Right.
Sometimes those guys are just sources that I think it's pendants for them a little bit. They'll give Matt all kinds of information, and they've actually done a lot to help us get inside these groups even deeper, into places that you can't get unless you know the top. I mean, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, there's been guys that, you know, were out, but their crew didn't know they were out.
Wow.
So, you know, who were trying to make right what was so evil and wrong. And I'm not sure you can ever make it right, but they were doing what they knew to do.
At least they woke up, right? I mean, but I guess because you get what they get from it, you know, like we join groups, you get a sense of community, you get a sense of belonging. So getting out of that, there has to be some other alternative, I would imagine. You know, there has to be an option, like you're saying. You know, love and hate, but there, you know,
create that void. You have to put something else into it. You know, you have to. There's always that's why education is so good for these guys, because then they can go learn a trade and they can start living their lives. There's a lot. I mean, reading a lot of it. Man, it goes back to what we said. These guys aren't stupid people. You know, and some of them are. But really not. I mean, they're really well-read people. They're just reading the wrong stuff.
Right. Those people terrify me. I would rather have them stupid, you know, with the face tattoos or whatever, you know, and so you could just see them, you know, point them out in a crowd. The ones who are the educated and well-read, and those are the ones that scare me, you know, because they could attract more people. You know, they're like, gee, that sounds pretty.
Yeah, they do. And it's Tawni has a new show coming out called The Secrets of Polygamy. It comes out next week. But
cool.
They call this secret for a reason. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be known. And that goes with anybody. If somebody's keeping a secret, there's something going on. Right. And so the face tattoos, instant identifier, the 88, the 14, the swastika tattoos, instant identifier. And that's why a lot of these guys are going away from that or hiding that, because they don't want to be seen, but they want to be able to still go out and influence and pull people into their cause.
Right. And that's why.
And that's
sorry,
the reason
Tawni.
we wrote the book, is because I knew one guy that had a huge swastika on his back, on a back piece. He had it tattooed on his back.
Oh, boy.
But he would date mainstream girls, and they didn't know what they were dating until that shirt came off.
Oh, boy. Wow.
And so, it's like, and then they thought, oh, it's not so bad. This guy's good. He speaks the King's English. He's a good dude. But it's so much deeper than that. And we were hoping that people, if they knew what they were getting into, they would turn around as soon as that shirt came off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that would be shocking, really. I would. But speaking of, influencing, what do you think the role of social media? I feel like social media is like a cesspool, and it's horrible. Well, these people, they're finding each other. It's making it harder, to stamp down hate.
Social media is doing nothing, in my opinion. I mean, social media has this good. I mean, I'm into high school football and college football. Social media is great for that. I can see who's winning games. But I can also look on social media and say, I can indoctrinate myself in Mein Kampf, or I can go and learn about what's going on in Europe with the terrorist side of what they're doing and the reasons why they're blowing up the World Trade Centers and things like that. But social media has its pros and cons. I personally am not a big fan of it, because I think guys are self-indoctrinating and going and doing mass shootings.
Yeah,
we've seen it.
Yes,
we've seen that has been a cause, or has been a way for these guys to go out and learn, and then go out and do a shooting. And we got to do something about it. So parents need to be part of their kids' social media. They have to know what's going on. They have to put the limits on their cell phone or iPad or whatever use. There's just things that we need to do to get more involved.
And I have a hard time with this, because we have 5 kids. And so we know that that's not just, hey, parents, be involved. It's not just that simple. But we really do, as parents, have to be involved. And it would be my hope that we can give kids a sense of belonging, a sense of a place to go, so that they're not on their phones looking for the scores of the high school games, and not being indoctrinated into hate groups. So give that kid a lacrosse stick. Give that kid a paintbrush, something, so that they find that sense of belonging in our schools and our communities, and not in a hate group.
Right. So, I mean, the title of your book, The Hate Next Door, it makes you think of, you don't really know who is around, and how prevalent are these groups? Are they hiding in plain sight, or, and then they get together and let their hair down, kind of
Here's
thing?
the way I look at it. I hate, the cycle of hate is like a roller coaster. You go up and you're at your peak, and then you go back down. And that build-up part is going to be your violent attacks, and then all of a sudden it gets to the top, and then you have Charlottesville, and then it goes down because everybody's worried about Charlottesville, and so the groups and leaders will go underground, and they're trying to get new leadership and trying to build and trying to recruit, and that's the going up start, and then you're going to have something happen that's going to make it go back down again, and it's just up to us to recognize that thing. So, are the hate groups around? Yes. If we don't see them, it's because they're building and recruiting and growing. And we need to just be aware of that. And we need to be aware of, they all have their identifiers, whether it's boots and braces or khakis and camo. They have their ideologies, whether it's, the Jews are taking over the world, or immigration is destroying our country. They all have the same things that they're keying off of. And so it's our job to make sure that we can see that and we can understand what's going on.
Right. So, what's the message, really? What do you hope people take away when they read your book? What's the impression you hope they take with them?
2 things. Number 1, well, more than 2. I want people to be aware of what's going on. Awareness is key in combating anything. We need to be aware of what our kids are being taught. We need to be aware of what we're being taught. We need to understand that not everything that's coming out from social media or our politicians or whoever else is legitimate information, and we need to check it out for ourselves. And another thing is that we need to know that hate is real and hate is alive. And we need to come together as communities. And that's why at the back of the Hate Next Door, we have, a chapter dedicated to the signs and symbols that you can look for and understand that if your son or daughter comes home from school and they have a 14 drawn on their notebook, they know what it stands for.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's kind of a red flag, right? I would imagine. So
I didn't really want to write the book, but what I would hope that people would get is so that we can get in front of some of this stuff before it becomes so toxic and deep that we're hurting each other. That we can have these conversations, that parents know what to talk about, that coaches know what to talk to their students about. That's what I was hoping, is that we could get in front of it. And then if parents found their children involved in this, or spouses, that they would know that they're not alone, and that there is a way out. That I would hope that it would be hopeful, and it would get the conversations started, like this conversation right here with you today, Tara.
I hope
is that we could talk about it and maybe talk deeper within our own homes and communities.
Right, and hope to stop this hate. Really, I mean, because there's no hope in that. And
we're seeing it in our country. There's just so much polarization, and there has been for years. But it just seems it's like, how far are we going to go?
Yeah.
Let's bring this back together, because we can. And that's what we were hoping. Some of that conversation would spill over into that, in just the smallest of ways, the small and simple ways. Maybe we could start making a difference back to, where we need, and I think most of us want to be.
Right. I think so too. I even think that the people who are in these groups, they are suffering in some way. Because how could you really be happy like that? It's impossible.
Well, that's why I say, these guys, they wake up in the morning and they're hating. They go through their day, they're hating. They go to bed at night hating, and then they start that whole cycle over and over again. And it leads to nothing but destruction and violence and jail time and destroying everything that you're about. And that's what we're trying to stop. We don't need that to happen. We need to understand that the words that we say matter, and the words that we say are harmful or they're good, and we need to decide to use the good words, not we don't need to go out and say stuff to motivate other people to do bad things.
Right. Because I think so. I love history, and I study not in a college, but in my own life, the rise of the Third Reich and rise and fall, and there's a lot of correlations and parallels to what we're witnessing today, which is chilling. But one thing that always struck me is that the Nazis would do these horrible things, and they would say they were doing it for love, for love of their country, that they would do these, crimes against humanity. And, there's this twisted, ideology that is turning everything on its head. And, it never ends well. That's the thing. It never ends well. Racism, this division, it doesn't work. That's, so I think that what you're doing, it's important, and we need to continue having these conversations and hopefully, change some minds, because it must be, like we were saying, it's exhausting for these people to carry this hate all the time. It's like, a weight on their shoulders constantly.
I'm tired, and I've been fighting hate for years and years and years, and I'm tired of fighting it, and I keep telling Tawni, Tawni, I'm done. I'm done fighting it. I'm done fighting it.
Every day.
And you know what I do? I start looking at my stuff and start, remembering the people who not the people I put in prison, but the people that died because of the people I put in the prison. And that's one of the motivators I have that keeps me going is, you know, I don't need people to come to me in my sleep and say, why don't you do this for me? Or why didn't you do that? I think that we all need to find our purpose in this battle against hate. And maybe, you know what, maybe one day it's just talking nice to your neighbor. Maybe one day it's not honking your horn at the guy that cuts you off.
It's true.
And that's how it all starts. Or maybe it's one day sitting down and telling your kids, you know what, let's turn off the media and let's have a conversation.
Right. But did you ever, when you were hanging out with these guys, did you ever have a feeling, like, get to the point where you're just like, shut the fuck up, you know, with this shit? Like, how do you keep it there? You know, I would get to a point where, you know, it would be really trying.
You know what? There's many times that I come to, like, I was at at a church and we were reading out of the book of John, and they start talking about how the mud race and the Jews killed Jesus.
Oh,
and all
wow.
this stuff. And it was just, I'm looking at the same book and I'm going, where are you reading this stuff at?
Right.
And, you know, but unfortunately for me, because of my job, I had to stay in tune and stay focused. And that's why it was so important for Tawni and our relationship, because Tawni was able to tell me, hey, that's, let's go read that verse in John, and let's see what it really says, and let's remember that what they're doing is they're promoting hate and they're motivating people to hate. What you're doing is trying to stop this from happening. So I wanted to say shut up all the time, but unfortunately I just couldn't.
I know. I'm only kidding, really.
I actually did, though, Tara. I would say things like, "Okay, do we really believe all this?" You know.
Right. Oh, really? Just taking the temperature. That's
I could say things that made people think, and in some ways it helped me be successful at what I did, because it was, you know, who's going to go undercover and say, "Oh, you guys are so stupid," you know, or, you know, that kind of
exactly.
thing.
That's true.
It worked, and then when, you know, at least a couple of them, when they were ready to get out, it worked. It worked because they knew that I had this other side as well.
Right.
Tawni and I were crawling through the desert going to the Hitler birthday party that we were watching. And,
the worst.
And when they got to the point of singing Happy Birthday to Hitler, Tawni looked at me and said, can we go now? I'm done.
That is amazing, though.
Some of it's just so insane, but it's like what Matt says, is you can't underestimate their, you know, who and what they are, because if you do, then that's when we're in trouble. And that's what we've been doing for so long. Right.
Well, some of, let's see, Terry on the chat asked, she says, isn't there more to it, though? Why do some kids gravitate to hate groups? Isn't it because they feel ignored, unloved, abused?
That's your typical gang mentality. You know, a person who's looking for brotherhood or looking for love or looking for a purpose in life, they'll go to, whether it's a Hispanic, black, or white gang, they'll go to these gangs and want that brotherhood, that camaraderie. The difference with those type of Hispanic and black gangs and your Nazi, you know, crew, is that the Nazis are teaching hate, which changes your mind. Studies have shown that constant hate in your head will change your neural highways, and while the black and Hispanic gangs, they want to make money and protect neighborhoods. They're both all bad, but the hate part of it is actually physically changing the minds of our kids and of the people who are involved in it, and that's why it's so much more dangerous. To stop that, we have to have the brotherhood coming from somewhere else. Whether it's a team, whether it's a paintbrush, whether it's a band, whether it's working on cars, welding, whatever it is. You have to replace that and give these kids the opportunity to learn something somewhere else.
Yeah.
I love that question, because it's like, one thing that we've seen is that when they know someone cares, just someone cares, that can be the whole catalyst to make sure we're going in a positive direction rather than that hate-filled direction. That's what I'm saying. We can all do something. We can all care about someone else.
Right.
We can all get outside of ourselves just a little bit. I'm not even saying a lot, and that can make a huge difference.
I mean, it's just we're living in interesting times, that's for sure. And it's so much to think about when you're reading your book. Really, it's an amazing experience, and I really enjoyed it myself. And
well, I'm glad you said that because it is a lot to think about. And if you go into reading the book and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to find all the misspelled words, or I'm going to find a run-on sentence, you know what? I'm sure you can find them. But that's not why we wrote the book. We wrote the book so we can have this very conversation we're having now.
Well, that's a really huge compliment in that it made you think, because that's what I hope, is that it will make people think, and then they'll search for their own answers outside of the hate next door, and have these conversations with their own people that they love and have influence over.
See, I always hope that one of the mottos of the show is, when I close the show, we say, "We stick together, we win," right? And I always think, I hope for this country, that's, we're so divided, that we start thinking of each other as Americans, no matter what, and we help each other. We don't leave people behind. I was in the National Guard, and we would practice leaving no one behind. We would drill on that. So yeah, and we don't leave people behind on the battlefield. We don't leave them behind on the battlefield of ignorance or illness, or that's what I think will give some hope and education too. Giving people, investing in young people, and but yeah, I know we have a long way to go, though. Yeah, but it's good. We have to talk about it. And I guess one last question I want to ask: who do you want to play you in the movie? Of
Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
Because I say Will Ferrell because I look back and think this has got to be a joke,
right?
There's no way, because when you sit back and you go to the meetings and you show up for a white supremacist barbecue and nobody brings the meat but everybody brings buns, you sit there eating bread the whole time with nothing else.
Oh, that's
and it's
funny.
It's
that's
just
awesome.
a joke. But I can't focus on that because it's really important. So, you know what? If and when this does go to a movie,
I hope so. Anybody been asked? I'm looking forward to your show coming on next week too. What is that again? You mentioned your polygamy.
It's on A&E. It's The Secrets of Polygamy. Monday, January 8th.
Yes, I'm interested. Yes, that's awesome, because it is all related. It's all. That's why I always think about we have to get our people want to belong, so we should belong to a positive, patriotic, or whatever American.
We're going to be talking about the Kingstons on the show. We'll be talking about the Kingstons, I think, within the first 3 episodes. And one of the things that they were teaching from the pulpit is Hitler got it right.
Oh, God.
He just did it without the priesthood, which is without God. And so when you say there's crossover, it's pretty dramatic crossover. And we, that's why I just think it's important for us to have these conversations, to have the awareness. And I'm grateful and blessed to be a part of anything that, some people are like, how did you do it? And I'm like, we get to.
Well,
here we are at a place where we can maybe do something different and help a lot of people.
Wow, guys, I really, I just don't even know what to say. You're an amazing couple, and you're an amazing family. The fact that, because I'm sure you guys are undercover, you have an entire family that you take them with you, right? They're also kind of undercover too. It affects the entire, everyone, right?
Yeah, there's some funny stories about that. Going Christmas shopping and in walks the Klan.
Oh my God!
It's not funny, Tara.
Right.
It's one of those things. Tawni and I, when I started doing this, we had an agreement. If I tell her to go, she needs to take the kids and go. But Tawni, being the wonderful Tawni she is, heck no, I'm not going to leave. I want to see this. And so it's just.
You know what, Tara? It's so important that your listeners know that we're just regular people who saw a need and somehow got thrown into it, and we're just regular people doing what we saw to do. And there's all kinds of everyday people doing extraordinary things. Right. And I think we all have extraordinary in us. Right. I really do. And that's why I think that if we take this on, and what can I do? I can't change the world. I can't change our country, but what can I do? And answers, you'll find that inside. Right. There is something you can do.
You're amazing. And people on the chat they're saying Tawni is a rock star. You're courageous, wonderful humans. They're thanking you for all that you've done, because you've really put your asses on the line, and it's made a difference, and I'm sure it will continue to make a difference. And I hope that we'll keep hearing from you. And will there be a sequel to your book?
Yeah, for
okay.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Let's keep the conversation going.
All right.
We're not a one and done type person.
Right.
Let's keep it going.
Awesome.
And let's together, with you and your viewers and listeners and book readers and everybody else, let's change what we can change. Make a difference.
Let's change the world. Why can't we?
Yeah, why not?
Why can't I like it? What did you say? If we stick together,
yeah,
we
win? Stick together, we win. Yeah.
What I tell my kids is, if one Browning wins, we all win. So if we take that even bigger, if this community wins, we all win. If as a nation we stick together, Tara's listeners stick together, we all win. I love it.
Right.
Just love it.
It's true, because I think that's what people really want. Nobody wants to live their life, in constant turmoil. They just want peace and happiness. But I think a lot of them are just lost, and so we're doing what we can, and you're doing more than most. So I really thank you for taking your time to come on the show, and you take a lot of your precious time out of your evening, and to talk to the listeners and me. And I really can't thank you enough for everything you've done and will do. And your book is amazing. So everyone should get it. There will be questions on the test, so I'm just telling my listeners to get it. So thank you guys, and I have your website. Do you have anything you want to plug besides? Yeah.
Next door.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Read it. It'd be a dream if every coach and teacher had a copy of that.
Right.
And, they have a lot of influence over our children as well. Right. So
tune in to A&E January 8th.
Okay.
Secrets of Polygamy.
I certainly will. I will. That's right up my alley. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Wonderful. Let's go. Let me see. How was that? That was great. I love them. I love them. I'm in love. You guys were really, I loved the chat, watching you guys were really enjoying that too. So I'm not kidding. I read this book. That's what I try to do when we have authors on the show. I try to the best of my ability. Wait, hold on. Let me get this lower third down. It's across my face. I try to read the book so I know what to talk about. It's also, I feel respectful, especially, but this book was not a chore. It's like it's not a chore it wasn't a chore to read any of Tom Hartman's books, of course. And this book is a page turner, and I think it would be, you should check it out. I hope you do. And hopefully they'll be back on the show. We'll talk about it more. Maybe, I'll, I don't know. I'm sure it'll all be incorporated into our Tarabuster conversations as we move on and talk about what's happening in the world. This is certainly couldn't come at a better time, too. When you're thinking about what's happening with all we keep hearing now, as we know, the border crisis at the border. And let's talk about that now that it's kind of a way in. Hold on. Here comes Tara Jr. Come on. What are you doing? Pain in my ass. Come on, pain in my ass. And let's see. Let me see. On the Tawni is a rock star. Yes, she is. Come on. All right, kid. Get over here. You bother me. And thank you guys. We got a lot of thumbs up. Great interview. Wow, that was because of the Brownings. They made it a great interview. They made it so easy to talk to. And they had so many interesting things to say. I just can't even imagine. How do you hang out with, I guess you have, when you have to do it, if your life depends on it. But being around these people is very scary. And that's why I was like, there had to be a time when they were like, shut the fuck up. Right? After a while, you hear this bullshit constantly. Wouldn't you just be like, shut up? You're like a rake on a chalkboard here. All right, but the sound was good though. I don't know. I wonder. I think maybe it was on their side. Something was wrong with their audio because it sounded good for me, and you guys had no problems. All right, so let's. The show's not over. We have a little bit more time. What I wanted to, it all relates to what we were just talking about with Tawni and Matt. Uh-oh. That's the cat moving the mic out of my face. Is, of course, Mike Johnson went down to the border, and I'm telling you guys, this is what we were talking about this on the last show, how they do not want Mike Johnson and his ilk. They do not want to have a remedy for this border crisis, and they, case in point is the fact that they're at the border. Why is he at the border, pointing at things with a furrowed brow, looking concerned? That in itself is proof that these are not serious people. He doesn't want to have a he should be in Washington having discussions and passing legislation, which that they passed or tried to. Many, we were talking about this on the last show. Remember the Gang of Six, when the bipartisan group of senators came up with immigration reform, a palatable immigration policy that both sides of the aisle could they both came up with it, but what happened was they blocked it. And in fact, here I have a little graphic about it somewhere in here. You see? Oops, that's too big. How'd that happen? Well, I'll move it down. Let's see. Here's why. See this? Why does that come in like that? Here's why we don't have immigration reform. In 2013, Democrats passed a bipartisan immigration reform bill in the Senate. House Republicans refused to allow the bill to even be debated. Obama, as he did, and to my eternal frustration, then turned around and asked Republicans, well, give me your immigration bill. Remember, that's how he would do it. Then, well, what's your plan? Give it to me. We'll include it. Republicans refused. Then Republicans demanded that Obama do something about illegal immigration. So Obama used his executive authority to enact some immigration reforms. Remember that? And then it's all coming back to me. I'm sure it's coming back to you, too. Republicans were outraged and called Obama a tyrant for using his executive powers and doing exactly what the Republicans asked him to do. That was after years of him trying to get Republicans to, what did he called it? That the fog would lift or whatever. It's never going to lift. Okay? Some people, they're not interested in doing their jobs. Mike Johnson is interested in going down to the border and making content for Fox News, pointing at things with a very concerned look in his face. Right. Twisted Nerves painting on the chat says that wasn't hateful enough for them. Meaning the reform, the immigration reform. They won't stop until we have no immigration. That's true, actually. I don't know. They won't stop even if that happens. You understand that if that ever happened, which would be to our utter shame, but also, you see, immigration adds value to the country. The fact is that people, and they've done many studies on this, that people who immigrate to another, or emigrate, right, to another country, these are the go-getters of society. Because it does take a lot to pick up your entire life, move to an entirely different country. You don't know, of course there are many different factors. There are the push factors and the pull factors, but those who do leave their countries and start over, it takes initiative. It takes a certain level of, gumption to do that. And these are people that, they add value to the society because they are innovators. They are trying to accomplish something in there. They're not just going to, why would you come to, pick up your entire life and walk across a desert to what? Sit on welfare. This is what they're saying. And we don't even have a good welfare system in this country, as we know. So it's all a canard meant to divide and stoke hatred against minority groups and against immigration. But of course, we are a nation of immigrants. Unless you're a Native American, your ancestors came from somewhere. My grandparents came here, and so I'm a second generation. But what would happen if they were successful in stopping immigration would be mass deportations then, right? That's what would happen. And that's exactly what, of course, we know Trump is talking about. He's talking about camps. What society ever put people in camps? Let me put it this way. That's not the appropriate sentence. What successful society, that's what I was going to say. What society put people in camps that was successful? Which makes it sound like the camps would be successful. What successful society ever put people in camps? Can anybody point that out? Seriously, on the chat, do we have any examples of a successful country that made concentration camps? Yeah, because concentration camps are not new. They're certainly a oh, hi, Boudica. They're right-wing. There's something that right-wingers really love to do. They love putting people in camps. And, yeah, so that's what we had to put up with today. Where is that? Hold on. It's really irritating how Mike Johnson went down to the border to point at things. Oh, my God. Okay, I just went on Twitter. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Ugh. Hey, how'd that happen? Where'd that come from? Wait a minute. That's weird. Okay, here we go again. I don't know. Why is it doing that? Ugh, look at him. Look at him. All 215 pounds of him. What a gross Boba Fett. I was going to call it Boba Fett's cool. No, he's fit. Jabba. I meant Jabba the Hutt. Incredible. 45 and some fan put this video together. 45 and 47 with an American flag. Wow. Oh wait, there's audio.
So what are you doing? You're trying not miss this shot with all those people watching.
Oh, all those people were watching me and I missed the shot.
What are you doing? You're here for the show or what? Not miss this shot.
ugh. You're here for the show. Look at him. He's like this old cracker. You're here for the. He looks like a melted wax candle. He's gross. Meanwhile, okay, Joe Biden's old, right? Come on. They should have a push-up contest. All right, you can't do a squat. One squat. Right? Do one squat. Do one burpee. And then maybe we'll talk. Here's Mike Johnson on CNN.
It can come to an end if the Biden administration will do its job, and they've refused to do it. They're doing the opposite.
So the $14 billion, there are, you're right, 1,600 asylum officers that would be part of that to speed up processing of asylum claims. That's what you're talking about. But there also would be 1,300 more Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200. And also funding to hire 1,000 Custom and Border Protection officers with a focus on counter fentanyl. So it's not all, in fact, most of it is not related to processing asylum seekers. A lot of it has to do with what you're talking about.
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would
to
be.
what?
He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here.
To point.
Yeah, well, he went for a photo op. He should come and spend
What
a
are you
couple of days
doing
like
there?
to be with the people here on the ground who are fighting this war on the border. That's
We have something called Zoom. We have something called
will do its job,
the
and they
phone.
refuse to do it. They're doing the opposite.
So the $14 billion, there are, you're right.
Speaker, this tweet says, Speaker Mike Johnson, the so-called leader of the House Republicans, is literally refusing Border Patrol help for one reason. It would be coming from President Biden. Again, Republicans want the problem so they can run on it. And that is the truth. And Democrats are about fixing problems. And let me show you one other thing that I saw this earlier in the day. And it really... Did you see this chart? Now, what's his face? Tom Cotton, the grinning ghoul who smiled and talking about photo ops, who took a photo op with military gravestones behind him as he grinned like a giggling ghoul. Who does that? Who says this is a great place to take my picture? And I'll smile for the camera. For those who don't remember, let me see. I'm looking at it. I know I have a picture of it because it's disgusting. Let me see. Tom Cotton. How do you spell cotton? Cotton. I'm in cotton. Here it is. Incontinent. What a disgusting display. Look at this. I made a meme out of it. Who else but an America-hating, patriotic, symbols fetishizing, coup-plotting traitor would pose like a grinning ghoul in front of a backdrop of dead soldiers? Look at that. He's in a military cemetery posing in front of headstones. It's just so wrong. There's something very wrong with that and them. So anyway, earlier today, I saw this, Tom Cotton, who had, of course, they're living in an alternate reality, but, saying, because Tom Cotton was saying, are you better off than you were when Trump was in office? Of course, negating or leaving out everything that actually happened in the Trump administration. How, 1 million Americans died and how he left office with less jobs than Hoover. He was the first president since the Great Depression to leave office with a negative growth in jobs. Well, thanks to the fact that the infrastructure week is no longer a laugh line, and that we are now manufacturing things in America as again, and because of the Chips and Science Act, we brought the manufacturing of these vital technological whatever, these chips, what's the word, that we weren't able to make. They were making them in China, which doesn't make any sense if you really care about national security, right? Like, why would you, the Chinese cannot, they of course they're going to put spyware in the tech. Okay, that's what they do. And I'm sorry, Junior, you're falling off my lap. Oh my God, he's such a crank. He's like Trump. No, he's not. He's not even close. So I wrote earlier, if the Democrats, if the president, House Dems, Senate Dems, I'm just tweeting it at them. If they don't hold up this chart whenever they're in front of a camera, they should be ashamed. They really should hang it up. There's something wrong with them. Or they're inept. Because look at this U.S. manufacturing construction spending. Look at it. Going through the roof. And, of course, don't let the Republicans say, well, he's spending. That's called investing. It's spending. It's not just government money. But this is happening in the United States because they're building factories again. Manufacturing construction spending. Computer and electronic manufacturing makes up more than 50%. Thanks to the Chips and Science Act. So this is, jobs, jobs, jobs. This is Bidenomics. And are you better off than you were when we had mass graves? I would think so. And the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in decades. But I don't know. And it's like we were talking to the Brownings, about the people who are living in an alternate reality. But yeah, I mean, it is depressing, frankly. And talking to them, though, was giving me hope, I have to say. But I see the work we have to do. I see what needs to be done. It's like when we were talking to them, and I was saying how you need to give these people, they have to have a sense of community. And that's why, what we talk about on the show all the time, we don't leave people behind. This is a patriotic imperative. We have to do that to unite the country. You can't just say we're so divided and like Biden says, we're the United States and there's nothing we can't do, nothing. That's not gonna do anything. It has to be tangible. If you say we can do anything, then let's do anything. Let's have universal health care. Because as Americans, we take care of each other. We don't leave people behind. Let's invest in education so anybody can get an education. So these people that the Brownings met in these white supremacist groups have options. They can get educated. They can build themselves into something. They can make something out of their lives. To me, that makes sense. And we have to, care about each other. And it's an action. Love is an action. It's not just a word. Oh, I love my country. That's an action. You love your country? Well, what will you do? Will you stop standing in the way of universal health care, universal higher education, living wages for everybody, retirement security? Makes sense to me. That's how it gets done. Look at you guys on the chat. I love all those emojis. Nairman Rhodes writes, just tuned in. Happy damn New Year. All right, get down. Get down. You're annoying me, even though I love you. He's getting annoying. He's old, right? We have the right to be old and annoying. Yes, I've been leaving posts in the gas pump saying, "Wow, Brandon, $2.89 exactly," like those stickers. I did this, with him pointing, with Joe Biden pointing. You don't see those stickers being put up now, and you don't see Fox News going, "Hey, we spent all last year beating this horse that Joe Biden's gas prices." Like he's got to be out there himself digging a well, and like he controls OPEC. He controls there's only so much that can be done when you have the Saudis who and the Russians who want to do what they want to do because they want their puppet in office. So as the election gets closer, of course they're gonna make it so stop producing or stop whatever they do with the oil. I don't even know anymore. What do they do? Produce oil? No, they dig it up. I don't know. Refine it. They're gonna that's what they said, that they would stop. They would slow down production. Prices are getting too low, and of course Putin wants his favorite puppet in office. He don't want no Joe Biden that's gonna not do everything. He's not gonna hand over Ukraine to him. I swear if I was in office, Putin would never have invaded. No, because he wouldn't have to. You would have already pulled America out of NATO and given him the green light to just take over you. You wouldn't have given the money for Ukrainian defense. That's for sure. Oh, that's a dog outside. I thought that was one of the cats. It scared me. I was like, my cat is barking like a dog. I'm just looking again on the Jeffrey Epstein whatever document. It seems kind of underwhelming to me. Am I missing something? There's no bombshells in here. Let's see. On one such document alleges that Epstein once told Joanna Soberg. How do you say her name? I don't even know. Joberg? I know is the S silent or the J? One of his accusers that former President Bill Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. In another, Maxwell says that Clinton flew on Epstein's private plane but couldn't confirm how many times. Clinton denied allegations of visiting Epstein's properties and having knowledge of his crimes. Yeah, but like I said, they asked Virginia Dupree, and directly they asked her, and she said, I have no, I saw Bill Clinton, but he was not involved with the sex part. But it doesn't matter. Here we go, right? Because once the Republicans get a hold of something, they don't. That's truth. What is truth? What is truth? Let me see. What else? Anybody have any more information on that? Oh, am I wrong? Is it underwhelming? Are there David Copperfield on the list? Who cares? All right. Let me see. What does the Daily Beast say? Oh my God. Let me see. Epstein modeling pal accused of assaulting an 18-year-old girl. Okay. Let me ask the AI Perplexity. What are, yes, that's how you would put it. What are the names on the documents unsealed tonight about Jeffrey Epstein? Okay. Let me see. It doesn't say. Unsealed documents are part of a now settled defamation lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre. Why am I saying it the other way? Who accused British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell of enabling her abuse with and by Epstein. The names of the individuals are being released on a rolling basis. And the first batch of documents listed Jane Doe's. Okay. Alrighty. Whatever. The other thing I want to talk about is, and then what time is it? We'll call it a night soon. How's everybody doing on the chat? Monica Lewinsky is 51 going on 52. That's what you guys are talking about? Not that you can talk about that. That's fine. Just checking in the chat. What was I saying? Yes. It kind of goes along with what we were discussing with the Brownings. Today, a bunch of capitals all across the United States got some bomb threats. And let me tell you, one thing that struck me was that when I heard this, so it says at least 9 U.S. state capitol buildings are evacuated after bomb threats. Now, one thing that I thought about was when Hillary Clinton lost the 2020 election despite receiving the most votes in a landslide. She more people voted for Clinton than had voted for, let me see, how do I put that? Any other candidate. More people voted for Hillary Clinton in 2020 than Obama, right? And every other president who had won. Oh, except now Joe Biden received more votes than any other presidential candidate in U.S. history, including more votes than Hillary Clinton. Well, up until that time, I should say. That's interesting, because we will, we'll have to beat this blob again. We'll have to beat Jabba the Blob again. So, at least 9 state capitol buildings evacuated after bomb threats. The FBI said it was working with state and local and federal law enforcement to gather, share, and act on information. At least 9 state capitol buildings across the U.S. were under evacuation orders on Wednesday due to bomb threats. Look at Booty. She's a good climber. Government buildings in Connecticut, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Kentucky, Maine, Michigan, and Mississippi and Montana received bomb threats via email to offices of secretaries of state and legislative officials. The FBI said it was working with state and local and federal law enforcement to gather, share, and act on the information. The agency said it was aware of numerous hoax bomb threats. The FBI takes hoax threats very seriously because it puts innocent people at risk. Well, what do right-wingers care? Right? They're doing this because they hate government. They're doing this for their Lord and Savior, Donald F. and Trump. Government is the problem. Government, the 9 most terrifying words. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Really, except when something happens, the first thing you scream is, where's my help? Where's it coming from? Well, it's not coming from, the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. It's coming from government. In spite of Republicans trying to cut it. Right? These are the same people. They want all the benefits. But they don't want, they just don't see it, it's like they don't see they just think that they take everything for granted. In fact, I was listening to a podcast earlier about, you guys know I love Roman history. And I was listening to a podcast about, it's called The Ancients. It's one of my favorite podcasts. It's all about, the ancients, if the title gives it away. And the latest episode was about how to survive the ancient world. And the guy, the historian who was talking, they were discussing, most people, if we went back in time, we would not be the kings and queens, or most likely even in the upper class. We would be one of the unwashed, huddled masses, most likely. And what's it like to be a Roman average citizen living daily in Rome? How did you survive? And one of the things he pointed out, there's a few things, but what he said, it reminded me of this other podcast I had listened to. Actually, it's one of the great courses called The Other Side of History. That's a great that's a great course you should take. It's amazing. And so, but the guy was saying that we take our modern conveniences for granted. For example, like we talk about it on the show. We get up in the morning, we make our morning coffee, we turn on the tap. Well, there was a time in ancient history where you'd wake up in the morning and you'd have to walk to the local water source. And some of these walks were about 4 hours away. So having running water, that's a modern convenience, of course, that we as I said, just take for granted. And in Rome, when they started building, of course they had pipes and running water in but that developed over time. When Rome first was founded, people had to walk until they built the aqueducts. And then the people's lives were changed because they would make communal water, troughs outside in public, where you would go instead of walking 10 miles or whatever to the water source. You would walk down the, maybe a couple of minutes down the road. And so we take these for granted. I think about it. I don't know. You probably do too, but it just seems like right-wingers, they don't see the infrastructure that's all around them, allowing them the freedom, to do things like call in a bomb threat, right? When they would go, in another time, they'd probably be on their way back from the 10-mile trip to the water source. What is Boudica doing? There was a little moth in here earlier. Maybe she's Booty. With your hand in mine, we can do anything, Booty. Yes, she's a good girl. So, yeah, it just pissed me off that I heard about them calling in bomb what's the point of that? And what do you think is going to happen? And this is part of, this us against them mentality that they have. The people who work in those buildings, they're not the enemy of these idiots. They're trying to make the trains run on time for these morons. They're trying to make sure their roads are properly maintained. That electricity is flowing, and they could get on their social media sites and post about how much they hate government. Right? It's sick of it. I know, isn't she the cutest? If we were living in a country that wasn't under the thumb of an impending fascist coup, that's what we would do. That's our show right there. It's Boudica. It's the Boudica show. It's the emotional support cat show. We would just watch her and talk about, cats, animals. I could tell you stories about the animals, how the squirrels know me. The squirrels in this neighborhood know me? I wish I knew them. I don't know. They all look alike to me. I know. Can't tell one from the other. But I know that they all know me. They follow me. You realize this? Has that ever happened to you? I don't mind it because I carry peanuts in my jacket so I could throw them to the squirrels. Oh, you know what happened? I'll tell you a story. I know we're kind of wrapping up. I throw some squirrels, some nuts. It's one of the joys in life. One of the simple joys of being alive is throwing a squirrel a nut now and then. Watching him pick it up with his little hands and eat it. Sometimes they yell at you like, they make that noise. So anyway, I guess one of these people, not too long ago, was throwing a squirrel a nut in the parking lot of my building. And some lady who probably has nothing better to do she stopped. She was walking her dog, and she stopped, and I don't know what the hell she said, but she was like, blah, 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 the city, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know. That's all I heard was the city. And I was like, yeah, whatever, lady. I was like, I know that guy. Pointing to the squirrel. I was like, don't worry about it. I know him. I know that guy. It's like, fuck off, lady. Go walk your dog. Leave me alone. Throwing a goddamn squirrel a nut. Like, that's the worst. That's the fucking terrible thing. You gotta worry. If that's what you got to worry about, honey, you better kiss the ground and thank your lucky stars that's the worst of your troubles. But so I know this person. I don't know her personally, but I know she's on the board of the building. Or I live in a apartment complex. And she's on the board, so she thinks she's, the big cheese. Anyway, I went to my car one day, and I noticed. So there's a solar panel on our. So we have the car, we have the cars, parking lot, and they built very nicely. They built solar panels, so. Because this building was built in the 40s, so it's all oil. But now we're getting off of that, so they made solar panels, and it was good. It is good. So anyway, on one of the poles that holds up the friggin' solar panels, I see a sign, and it says, I can't read it from my mind verbatim, but. It said, you're gonna die when I tell you this. It said, feeding squirrels disrupts the balance of nature, and that's all I saw. And there was like a picture of a squirrel. I'm not fucking kidding. I should have took a picture of it, but I was so pissed off. I ripped it off. I was like, get a life. Get a life, lady. Feeding squirrels disrupts something about the balance of nature. You know, turns them into, I guess, beggar squirrels. It turns them into, the beggars of what? Like what? What are they gonna do? You'll never let them. They'll never learn to stand on their own 2 feet. And I'm like, it disrupts. She's talking about disrupting the balance of nature. Now, look, honey, did I talk about not realizing where the fuck you live? And I look around. Look around. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, Jim, on the chat. The balance in the forest that is New York City. Honey, the balance of nature has already been disrupted for these squirrels, okay? They live amongst us. And that's how they get by. They go, and some people like me throw them nuts. There are nuts. They fend for themselves too. But part of what they do is they get nuts from fucking people too, because we live with them. We live in this sidewalk that disrupted the balance of nature. There's streets, buildings. The balance of nature is disrupted before I fucking threw the squirrel a nut. But the fact that this lady, why didn't I take a picture of it? I ripped it up because I was so annoyed. Now that I'm talking about it, I really wish I had taken it to show you guys. But who does that? Who takes time out of their limited lifespan to make a poster? And it had it was like nicely designed, and it said feeding squirrels. And it had pictures of squirrels on the bottom of it. Like I wouldn't know what a fucking squirrel looked like. What a dumb bitch. You know, that's why we can't have nice things. Right? That's why. People like that is why we cannot have nice things. Like, cause they don't want us to have nice things. You know, I gotta be disrupted out of my limited lifespan. When I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to distract myself from my impending doom. You know, we're all headed one place. So 1 minute out of my life, I throw a friggin' peanut to a squirrel and I say, look how cute. You know? And for 1 second, my little spirit is elevated. And I feel like living through another day. You know, that's all it takes. And then this bitch comes along with a poster. I know there's a bit in there somewhere. There's a comedy bit in there somewhere. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's just a story. I was going to say good story, but I don't know if it's a good story. It's my story, though. That's the story I got. I just can't believe people. Do you understand how people are? How stupid they are? How pointless? How pointless does your life have to be to do that? I mean, why would you design an entire poster with pictures of squirrels? Like, she had to go and search for pictures of squirrels. You know? And then she's like, I'm going to put that picture there and that picture there and that picture there. And so me, and she put it near my car. All right? So I would see it. She made sure. She wanted me to see it. Because maybe I don't know what a squirrel looks like. Maybe I think I'm throwing a nut to a small dog, a chihuahua, on the loose. And and she's educating me, and I'm like, wow, wowzy. Exactly. Jim on the chat says very New York. Exactly. It really is. Some old biddy. Not that I'm like no spring chicken here, but I wouldn't. Like, who would do that? Well, I don't. I have too much to do. I got other shit going on. I'm going home, and I'm gonna make a poster about how. And then I love how it. She's trying to educate me. Feeding squirrels. She's trying to not just educate me, but shame, like educate slash shame me about the squirrels. Feeding squirrels disrupts the balance. It was like, I wish I could remember. I'm sure if they put me under hypnosis, I could remember it. Disrupts it said something about how it makes them, and I know there was balance of nature in there somewhere. It turns them into layabouts. Next thing, they're going to be stealing $5 out of your wallet. What does it do? It just encourages them? To what? They'll never learn to live on their own. They'll never get on their own 2 feet. If you're enabling them. One fucking peanut. Okay, guys? That's all it took to trigger her. She was like, boom, boom, boom. I'm going home. I'll show that bitch. I'm making a poster. Boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And she had a dog, too. That poor dog, right? That poor dog is probably like, rolling its eyes. Feeding squirrels. She's, what a dumb dude it is. This is where, that's why. That's why. So many people like that. What does she want from my life? That's the other thing I felt like. I was thinking, like, why? Oh, so then I'll be like, I totally see your point now. I will never feed another squirrel again. Fuck those squirrels, those lazy bastards. They've never learned how to live on their own 2 feet. Disrupting the balance of nature. Where do we live, honey? This is goddamn New York, goddamn city, goddamn. That's right, Kathy on the show. I guess that woman had nothing better to do, clearly. And that's why she should be very thankful. She should be thankful. She should thank me for giving her a purpose that day. She felt like her life was worth living for one hour that she went home. She probably went right home. She was like, as fast as her big fat feet could kick. Not that she was fat. I mean, just fat as annoying. Not that fat is. I'm not trying to fat shame anybody. All right, don't send me any emails. I'm not. It's just it just came out of my mouth. Okay, she wasn't fat. Not that it would matter, and I shouldn't have said anything. I'm not like I'm a hot model or anything. But her very what else could I call her feet? Her purposeful feet. No, that's not good. Her very indignant, that's for sure. Right. The squirrels love to live in harmony with human beings. Some squirrels even come and they take it right out of your hand. They've learned. I guess the balance of nature's disrupted. What's going to happen next? Yes, elephantine. That's a good one. Her elephantine feet. Definitely a squirrel Karen. Oh, why didn't I get it on camera? That's the best. See, you got to walk around with a body camera these days. That would have been good, because that would have made a good video. because I could have had her going, the city, blah, blah, blah. Like stopping, going, and her eyes, like her piercing laser eyes, disrupting my little moment of joy. I should have known. That's what happens with my joy. I can't have one moment of joy with a squirrel without some squirrel Karen and her big elephantine clogs clomping on into my world. I'm going right home. Come on, Fluffy. Bastards. All right. Oh my God, thank you, Matt M on the chat. Thank you for your super chat. Squirrels need to learn to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's so true. Without a handout from me. It's so true. How will they learn to pull themselves up by their bootstraps? They're like, it's like on Tara welfare. That's what they think. Whenever they see me, they're like, one actually got up on the bricks. Okay, so there are some bricks that come around the door, and they're very good climbers. You think Booty's a good climber. You see these squirrels. They're like Spider-Man. So he climbed up on the bricks, and on the top of it's like a decoration in bricks, and at the top comes out like a little triangle thing. And he was sitting on there on the top of the door that I go into. And he was yelling at me. He was like, like, hey, where's my nut? Where's my peanut, bitch? Where's my peanut? That's what he sounded like. That's how squirrels are when they're that's how I hear them, at least in my mind. Where's my peanut, bitch? I'm losing it. Okay, squirrels need to learn to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's true. And get a job, squirrel. Get a job. All right. Next thing they'll want SNAP benefits. Exactly, Matt on the chat. Next thing, they'll use their food stamps for steaks. Next thing you'll see them with some young buck on the food line, squirrels and bucks. Remember Reagan? Some young buck eating with his food stamps. Talk about dividing this country, right? Now they're dividing us over squirrels. But think about it. I wish I had. That's why you got to walk around with a body camera to make TikTok videos. Because I would have had the lady with the squirrel. I would have had the squirrel. Would have had the throwing of the peanut. The woman stopping, screaming at me. Well, she wasn't screaming. She was just like, the city. What about the city? What about the city? The city said don't feed the squirrels? I didn't get the memo. Who's going to stop them? Who would tell you that? You go to any park in the city and people are feeding the fucking squirrels. They're cute. They're part of the ambiance of the city. They're little New Yorkers too. And then I would have had me, if I had the body camera, going to my car one day, just being myself, just minding my own business, being myself, and encountering this poster that said, it just says everything about her and nothing about me. Like, what did you think I was going to do? Be like, oh, yeah, I see the world through your points of view now. And I am totally educated. I will never feed another. In fact, I'll next time I see a squirrel, I'm going to kick them. That's what they need, a good kick. Just to get them back on track. Kick them. Just kick them when they're down. Kick them. Next time they want a squirrel, I mean, don't kick them. I'm just kidding. Nobody kick a squirrel. You just kiss them. Kiss them next time you see them. Hi, Ray Ray. All right. Listen. That'll be it for tonight. I thought it was a good show. Then we just had some time chilling, maxing and relaxing. Bebop and Boo outside of the school. And, yeah, mind your own business. Exactly, Kathy. Next time, tell her, mind your own business. Karen. And I don't even like, I was talking about that word, Karen. I know Karens. They're very nice people. I'm conflicted about it. We need to come up with a new term. But, all right, listen, we will be Bebop and Dooba, and she's my baby. Getting together. We'll be getting together on Friday. Yes, thank you, Haiku. That Haiku says thank you for the weekday special. I hope to make that a regular thing. They got to be regular. You know? They really do. And I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow. I need to dye my roots. All right, listen, guys. Well, who knows what'll happen by Friday? We will have a show. If you can become a patron, please do at patreon.com/Tara Devlin. Keep the real liberal media going and growing. I want to thank the Brownings for coming on the show. They've been all over the media, and now they have reached the pinnacle of their success on the Tarabuster show. And I encourage you to check out, get their book. You can get it. I got it. They sent me a copy, a PDF copy, but I actually bought it on my Kindle. I bought it on the Kindle so I could read it. I wanted to read it. All right? In my leisure time. It was not, and it wasn't a, it's not a slog. It's a good book. It's not a chore. And yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And it's also, a very important topic. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next installment. All right, listen. Yeah, they were great. I love them. They're awesome. I mean, I'm just impressed by them. Even when they sent the picture that I posted in the promo and whatnot, they just look great. They look like great people, and that's why I was saying, maybe I shouldn't have asked them where they are based, but they live in Arizona, and it just looked like they were living a happy, lovely life. While I'm here throwing nuts at a squirrel and having some Karen up my ass. Why can't I have a lovely life in a nice, beautiful environment? All right. I'm only kidding. All right. Listen, thank you so much. And thank you, Charlie, for your support and making Tarabuster a part of your roster over at APS Radio News. And thank you for your support of the community cats. It means a lot, and it matters. It really does matter, because we are in this together. and we will win. We will win. We have a lot of work to do, but we're on the right side of history. We're on the right side of decency, dignity, democracy, and humanity. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out tonight. Thank you to the Brownings for your precious time, the gift of your precious time. I know it meant a lot to me and the viewers. We will win. We stick together. We win. My name is Tara Devlin, and I'll see you guys on Friday night.